Okay. Okay, looks like I'm live in both places. Okay. Hi. Hello. This is Carla Metzdorf. I am admin to the group Overcoming Anxiety for Stressed Out Moms Who've Had Enough. And I'm also an anxiety coach. And I'm coming on live today because I want to talk about, hold on, I have an alarm going on and I don't know why it is. Okay, so I want to come on and talk today all about thoughts. I just want to see if we're on in the group. I want to make sure that I'm live. There you go. There you go. All right. I just want to make sure because I've been always having technical difficulties. And it looks like I actually did it, ladies. Look at that. I am live in both places. And also, I'm coming on to talk to you today about the power of thoughts. What do thoughts have to do with anxiety? Now, I'm going to start off talking about what thoughts are because I always like to give definitions. Definitions keep us on the same page, so to speak. I always want you to understand what I'm talking about, where it is I'm coming from. So, what is a thought? To me, this is my own definition. I've made this up based on my experience. A thought is a manifestation of your senses, a manifestation of the senses. So how did I come up with that? How am I going to back that up? Okay, well, I'm going to back it up with an analogy. Let's say you're taking a walk, and as you're walking, you see this beautiful bush of roses. Okay, the roses are nice, big, open, and red. And the first thing you do is you see it. Okay, your eyes see it. So what happens is it sends a picture to the brain. Okay, the brain processes it. And as it processes, it's saying, you get this thought of, look how beautiful, look at those roses. Wow, look at that rose. Nothing is until you say it is. We give things meaning. We give things meaning with our thoughts. Because it's true that somebody else can come along, see the same exact roses, and think, I hate flowers. I'm not a flower person. I don't think those are beautiful at all. To each its own, right? So, to conclude, a thought is a manifestation of your senses, all right? And what we think is just subjective because two people can have different thoughts about the same exact thing that you're experiencing. Okay? So just like, let's say, going on a roller coaster. We can both go on a roller coaster and I can think this roller coaster is the greatest thing. I love it. I love the thrill of it. I loved every twist and turn and drop. And then you come on with me. We have the same experience, but your thoughts were more like, when is this going to stop? I want to get off this. I feel like I'm going to throw up, right? Because we experienced it differently. Nothing is until you say it is. It's subjective. So that is a thought in a nutshell. Thoughts are really just a manifestation of what it is you are experiencing. So I'm just going to switch screens here because I'm going back and forth between YouTube and the group. I see Carla is on, and Patrice and Yanis. Hi, ladies. Thank you for joining me. Okay. So a thought. Now, what happens after we use our senses and we get a thought, whether we're seeing something, hearing something, smelling something, tasting, touching, okay? What happens is it's a sensory thing. It goes to our brain, all right? And our brain processes it, okay? And we think, oh, that smells good, or that feels really soft, or that looks really beautiful. Oh, that noise is very piercing. It helps us to form meaning, okay? It goes into, see, we go through our eyes, through our nose, through our mouth, through our fingers, or just anywhere in our body, because our biggest organ is our skin. That's the biggest organ, just in case you didn't know that, ladies. Okay, the biggest organ we have is our skin, and then we can feel it. Hopefully you can feel all over. All right, and as you feel, your brain is processing it. As you're seeing, the brain is processing. As you're smelling, touching, tasting, the brain is processing. Most of your thinking takes place right here in the not the front, the whole lobe, the front lobe is all this area over here is where most of that processing takes place, all the thinking. Now, after, okay, we our senses pick something up and we give it a thought, we give meaning to it. We usually feel our thoughts in our body. Yeah, we feel our thoughts in our body. And just in case you didn't know that, let's just do another analogy here. So, okay, let's say you're taking another walk and you pass a bakery. And guess what you're smelling? You're smelling fresh bread. You're smelling cookies and cakes and brownies and whatever's coming out of that bakery. And all you can think is, oh, I need to put my teeth into one of those brownies or that cookie or that cake or that doughy bread, right? Your glands like automatically may start watering, right? And you might start going, I really, really could use that. Or maybe even your stomach is getting involved. All of a sudden you feel hungry. All of a sudden, it's like you need to go into that bakery and buy that brownie or buy that cookie, right? That's how powerful thoughts are. All right. So we feel it in our body. Or perhaps, let's say you are riding a bike, and as you're riding the bike, you fall off the bike. Let's say by accident you go over a bump and you flip over. So you feel it now. Now you landed on the ground, you're all scratched up, and maybe your knee hurts or your elbow hurts, and and so you're feeling things in your body as things are happening, and you're thinking, oh, I had this accident. And as you're thinking about your accident of riding the bike and falling over, you're feeling the results of all that in your body. All the thoughts of, how did that happen? Did I go over a speed bump or something? I lost control. So silly I am. And maybe you're beating yourself up, and or maybe you got all scraped up, and it's burning you, and you're thinking, oh, that burns so much, and you can't get the burn sensation out of your mind. And of course, the more you focus on it, the more burn you're going to feel, right? The more you focus your thoughts on what it is you're experiencing, it's like the more it's being processed, the more it's going to the rumination of that thought in your mind. This is how we can get intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are really unwanted thoughts. You know, those thoughts that come into your mind and you're like, oh, why did I think that? So, what happens, ladies, is our senses, we give definition, we give a meaning to something, we feel it in our body. But what happens is sometimes we feel it in our body because of what we thought. And that feeling in our body, it's like we can't get past that feeling. All right. It's backed up by more thoughts of what, we start focusing on that feeling. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? And we just focus on that. I don't know if that's making sense. So, maybe going back to the bike accident. So let's say you're all banged up, okay? But the whole way home you're walking your bike. Now you don't even want to get back on the bike because you're afraid it's going to happen again. The whole way home you're walking your bike and you're limping, your knee hurts, and you're like focusing on how it feels. And you're telling yourself, you're beating yourself up. You're telling yourself this hurts. I've got a lot to do. I can't walk on this. Maybe I have a fracture. And maybe you're beating yourself up even more. So you're making yourself feel like really, negative talk. And you're making yourself feel really down and out about yourself and about the incident that you had. Your thoughts are very powerful. So we always have to take care of what we hold in our minds and what we tell ourselves. Because the moment we get really negative on what that experience is, we can stay stuck in that negative cycle. And if we're uncertain about what we're feeling and if that feeling is going to go away and how we're going to deal with that feeling, this is how anxiety is born. So, our senses, we give meaning to the things that we see and smell and touch and taste and feel. We feel it in our bodies first. Then we back it up with more thoughts. We give a story about those things that we are experiencing. So this is why understanding thoughts and how thoughts work is really important, because your thoughts really give you your experience. So if you want to have the experience of peace, and joy, and happiness, and love, and you want to be normal, and I always do that with normal because my normal is not your normal and vice versa. Okay. How are you going to get there? Okay. If the thoughts you hold in your mind are always negative and opposite of what you want. Right? So thoughts. If you want to have peace in your life, okay, let's go with peace because that's what everybody wants to feel. Really, I mean, we just want to be at peace. We just want these anxious feelings to go away and feel peaceful inside. But how are we going to do that if our thoughts have been taken over? Because that's what we feel, right? You feel like you have no control of your mind. But you do. You really do. It's just that what happens is when anxiety gets involved, okay, when you start having those anxious thoughts and you start getting into that negative loop and anxiety and the emotion of anxiety starts taking over, okay, that part of the brain that thinks more logically, that part of the brain that is rational kind of gets turned off. So you're thinking more with an emotional mind than a rational mind. So now your emotions are really like, so let's go back maybe to the flower. Okay, you're on a walk now. With a rational mind, you're looking at the flowers saying, oh, they smell so good, look how beautiful they are, and it makes a warm fuzzy feeling in your body, or you just feel good because it's nature, and you just feel good. But let's say you're on a walk and you come across these roses. Now, with your rational mind, yeah, you think they're beautiful, but you're thinking with an emotional mind today. You're not with it. Your thoughts are all over the place. You're looking at these flowers, and what you could think is, for some reason the flowers are not in your eyes as something of beauty, something that makes you feel good. Today, the flowers are something that you're associating with, I don't know. For an example, okay? For the life, I've never really been a big flower person. As a matter of fact, and you might think I'm a little crazy, I told my husband from the very beginning, like he sent me roses a couple times, and I was like, great, thank you, I appreciate it, but please know, I'm not a big flower person. Although I really appreciate your sending me roses, whatever flowers you send, save your money. Not needed. I don't enjoy them the way others do. Why, ladies? Because I associated flowers with death, yeah, and sickness. Because in my family, when you got flowers at a funeral, okay? You got flowers when you was sick and not feeling well. Now, I'm not saying, like, my father did send flowers to my mom, like on a wedding anniversary or Valentine's Day, but I don't know. I just made that association. And ever since then, flowers meant a different thing to me. So I don't want this to be about me. I'm just telling you, we make associations, okay? And in our minds, in my mind at least, if I'm emotional and I see a flower, if I see something, I might associate it with something that always made me feel bad or fearful, because that's the state I'm in. Does that make sense? But if I'm in a good mind, and I'm thinking with my logical mind, I might be like, oh, that's a nice flower. It's really beautiful. And so thoughts are really important. Thoughts will give you your experience. We make associations. I'm just going to go into the group a minute and see who's with me. Hi. Thank you, ladies, for being with me as you come on. Tell me who's here. Good to see you all today. So, thoughts. What else can I say about them? When do they become intrusive? Well, when that emotional mind gets involved, okay, we start thinking with the emotions. So we start thinking of things that are negative. So our minds are always protecting us. The mind and the body, you'll always hear me say this, work together to protect you. So you're going to start focusing on things that may not seem, when things are intrusive, they're really against your values. That's why they're intrusive. There are things that maybe you won't normally think or say to yourself or to somebody else, if that makes sense. Okay. So, and we think, why am I thinking this? Why is this thought in my head? I don't get it because I don't normally think this way. Why am I thinking this way? Why can't I get this thought out of my head? So when I get like that, when I start getting this rumination of thoughts, the negative thoughts, I think, okay, Carla, are you stressed? Are you being emotional? What's going on in your life? Because that is really when it happens. Because that's when you start thinking, I don't have control of my thoughts. It just keeps going on, and I can't seem to turn it off. And science says, believe it or not, I mean, it depends on the person and it depends on your mood. It depends on the attitude and what you're going through. But the average person has between about 12,000 to 6,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of thoughts. It's a lot of thoughts. But the majority of us, okay, 80% of those thoughts, kind of negative. They're negative. We're focused on our problems. We're focused on what's not going well in our lives. We're not focused on our blessings. We're focused on lies. We're not focused on truth. And 95% of the thoughts are just repeating over and over because we're in that emotional state. So what we focus on, all right, when we are in a certain state of mind, okay, we start focusing on what, like I said before, we're focused on problems. We start focusing on the problem that we're having, the problem that's, the thing that's given us an issue. So we're not looking at solutions. And the thoughts in our mind, most likely, is what's keeping us there. When we can change the meaning of the initial thing that set us off of what's going on, we can make a change in every aspect. So in other words, I guess let's go back to the bike accident, okay? If you're just coming on, you might be a little confused, but I gave an analogy before of riding the bike and we hit like a bump in the road and we flipped over the handlebars and we got scraped up, okay? I'm just going to go back to YouTube for a second. We're all scraped up, all right? And now we're focused on how we feel. We're focused on our cuts and bruises, how we feel, and, maybe we broke something. I don't know. We're focused on the pain. And until we get our minds going in a different direction, until we can focus on being well, focus on, this has happened to me before, but, even if it's happened before, maybe it happened worse this time. Maybe, you broke something and the last time you didn't, but you're focused on the pain. And the more you focus on the pain, the more that pain is going to seem, why can't I think of the word? The more you're going to feel the pain. That's what I want to say. So the more you focus on the pain, the more you're going to feel the pain. What we focus on, okay, it seems just to like explode, because it's that story we're putting in our heads of what we're feeling in our bodies, what we're telling ourselves. Our thoughts are very powerful, extremely powerful. So let's go back to, we were talking before about peace, right? How are we going to bring peace into our lives? Well, we're certainly not going to bring peace in our lives with thoughts that are not peaceful. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't make sense, ladies, Let me know. I'm going to go back to the group for a second. Does any of that make sense, ladies? You cannot have the experience of peace, right? If your thoughts are all about things that scare you, that annoy you, if you're focused on your problems, that makes sense, right? So, how do we get there? How do we get there? First of all, ladies, you need to absolutely have awareness. You know that's always my first step, right? We need to have awareness of the fact that we are not thinking with our logical mind. That these thoughts that are going over and over in our minds, yeah, that rumination of thoughts is because I'm stressed. It's because I feel anxious. It's because I am uncertain about what is happening. And that's what anxiety is. And anxiety changes how you process. Remember, I told you before, through our senses, we process, and thoughts are a manifestation. Okay. So as we become anxious and as we continue to use our senses, okay, we now, because we're anxious, we're processing what we're seeing, what we're hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching differently. Does that make sense, ladies? Can someone answer me? Could someone give me a 1 or say, yay, that makes sense? Let me know, okay? If you need more clarification, I'll give more. So anxiety changes how you process. When you're not anxious, you're going to process things with a totally different way of thinking. When you're anxious, you're going to use more of an emotional mind. Fear is the driving emotion behind that. So our thoughts, okay, we are going to start having these rumination of thoughts because of the fact that we are just so anxious, and our thoughts are actually, it doesn't feel that way, but our minds are trying to protect us. So awareness, just the awareness of this going on is a help. Having awareness, all right? The second thing, once you're aware, hey, these thoughts I'm having, yeah, they're just thoughts, and they're scary. They're not the thoughts I would normally have, but I'm stressed, I'm anxious, so of course I'm going to have thoughts like this. Understanding how the brain processes and why you're having those thoughts is important so that you can tell yourself, I know exactly why I'm having these thoughts. If that makes sense. So the next step you're going to do is you're going to get really present. You're going to be in the present time, because when you're in the present time, all you're focused on is in the here and the now. You're not in the future, what ifing, because that's what you started to do, right? You started going, well, what if this and what if that and what if this happens and what if that happens? When you're in the future, that's what happens. Or you're not in the past beating yourself up. If only I said this, if only I said that. I should have said this. I could have done that. When you're in the present, it's a lot easier to take back control. So in the present time, you can talk to yourself differently than you would if you were wrapped up in that emotional, anxious mind. You're going to take back control because you're going to get really present and you're going to bring awareness. I'm stressed. I'm anxious. And you're going to talk to yourself differently. You're going to understand, well, what is it do I want to experience? Let's go back to the peace. I want peace. Well, how? How am I going to get peace? With the thoughts I was just having. Because the thoughts I was having is what's making me anxious. So how do I have to think? What do I have to say to myself? How do I have to think? Because we get into these, what I call thinking traps, okay? These, when we're full of fear, okay? When fear has taken over our minds, we tend to think in a certain way. Our minds think in patterns sometimes. And you'll know that because you'll do, let's say, a lot of catastrophic thinking, which is the what if anxious thinking, right? We'll do things like we'll filter our thinking where that's where like 100 things could go right. Then that one thing goes wrong, and that's what we focus on. Who cares if everything else is right? We're just going to focus on that one thing that went wrong, right? We have to understand we have these patterns so that we could take control of them. And another example is the shoulds. And I actually did a whole live on that. Shouldn't. We should do this and we should do that and we should. We put these like expectations and rules on ourselves and others. We make things hard. And just like another example, I'm just going to give another one, is how about comparison thinking, right, ladies? And I've said this many times. We shouldn't compare ourselves to others, right? We look at others and we think, oh, I want to look like that person. I wish I had what that person has, or I wish I feel like that person feels. And, we just keep comparing. We got to stop doing stuff like that. But when we can understand our thought patterns, what we can do is take back control. So get present, understand your thought patterns. And one of the best ways to do that is by journaling. I love journaling because journaling is the greatest way for you to build awareness of how you think. Some of you are like already going, I don't want to journal. I hate journaling. And I do it once or twice and then I get tired and I don't do it. I'm never consistent. Ladies, if you don't want to journal, I can't make you journal. Okay. But if you want to understand your thought patterns, find a way to somehow record that I'm doing it again. Here I go again, thinking negatively this way. So what are you going to do about it? So have awareness, get really present, understand your thought patterns, and then do something about it. The biggest thing we need to do is reprogram the thoughts that we're having. Because the thoughts that we are presently having got us where we are today, right? We are experiencing what we're experiencing because of our thinking of how we got there. We started off with some kind of experience, something triggered, something happened, and we gave it meaning. And we gave it more meaning and more meaning with our thoughts. Now we have to kind of undo that. We have to give it a different meaning. We have to reprogram. My favorite way of reprogramming is with truth. Truth. And for me, my truth comes from God's word. And that was the biggest way I reprogrammed my mind. I found the truth in God's word, how God spoke to me. What does God say about what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling? Now, some of you may not understand scripture or may not. You might say, Carl, I've never opened up a Bible in my life and I just don't have that kind of relationship with God. Okay, but we need to challenge our thoughts. So when you have these thoughts that come into your head and you get really present, okay, you have to start kind of questioning yourself. In other words, like, what is that thought I'm just having? Like I just told myself, because I went over the handlebars on my bike and I scraped my knee and I'm not walking right, that I've got a broken bone and I'm never going to ride a bike again. I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, I'm making up like a worst case scenario thing here. Okay. I'm trying to be negative just to make a point. So, you're being super negative here. I mean, you're limping. If it hurts really bad. So you're telling yourself, I probably broke something and I'm probably never going to be able to ride a bike again. I'm probably never going to be able to do this again and that again. And you're going through all these worst case scenarios, and you're focused on that, but you need to bring awareness. Okay, there I go again. Worst case scenarios. I'm catastrophic thinking. All right. So let's make this different. How am I going to make that different? So where is the evidence that that's true? I'm telling myself I'm never, ever going to ever ride a bike again, or, this is broken. Okay. I banged up my knee and it hurts. But of course it hurts. I banged it up, and I flipped over on my handlebars, and even if it's broken, I'll go to the doctor, and the worst I'm going to need maybe is, I don't know, a cast or whatever, I'll go get x-rays done and the x-rays will tell me, but before I get x-rays, I'm not going to sit here and tell myself all these things, because I'm just going to make the situation worse. That's why awareness is so key, ladies. Awareness is key so that you keep yourself in check. You need to catch yourself, be present, and reprogram. Be able to talk yourself down. And repeat, repeat, repeat. Do you understand how important that it is for you to have the right thoughts in your mind? Do you have any questions about anything that I'm saying today? Do you have a better understanding of thoughts? What thoughts are, how they're formed, and how anxiety can change your thoughts, and why you're thinking the way you're thinking, and how possibly you can change that? Anybody have any questions? Anything to say about anything that I said? I don't see any questions. I'm just trying to make sure that I touch upon everything I want to touch upon. I mean, thoughts is a big subject. I mean, you get this chatter in your mind, right? And you're thinking, who's that? Like, was that me talking? Because it sounds like you, right? And I did a post this week about the movie Inside Out, right? And because I don't know if you all saw Inside Out, it's a cute little movie and it's actually pretty funny. So they have these characters in the brain of this little girl. And the characters represent each of the emotions, right? And of course, one of the characters is anxiety, my favorite character, of course. And in one of the movies, anxiety took over. And let me tell you something, how that hit home, okay? I could have written this movie, could have written the whole movie. It was unbelievable. But that's the way anxiety is. It's like, who's in my mind? Like, where's this thought coming from? Did I just say that? Why am I thinking that? And we just feel so out of control at times, right? Christy, you plan on start journaling. Good for you, Christy. I really recommend it. It helps to understand how those thought patterns are forming, and that you're having these certain thought patterns. And when you understand how you're thinking, that's how you can start taking control. If you don't have awareness, ladies, how do you take control? And I always say that you are stuck because you lack awareness. The moment you gain awareness about what it is you're experiencing and why, you can take action to overcome. Diablo app. I've heard of it, but I can't say I've ever used it because, ladies, back when I was suffering, when I had this debilitating anxiety and I had panic attacks and all that, guess what? There was no apps for any of this. These apps are a new thing. I don't even I can't even give like any kind of opinion about it because I never used one. I don't need to. I don't need to. So, but I would like to anyway, actually, because I want to see how they work because I've spoken to many of you. Some of you say they work great, and some of you say I've used an app and it did absolutely nothing for me. And all this stuff, some things work for you and some things will not. That's why when you go in the group and you start sharing information, that's all well and good. But you have to keep in mind when you share information, what works for you is not going to work for everybody. Okay? It's not going to work for everybody. But as far as thinking is concerned, it's free. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to do that, Christy. I'm going to download this Diablo app because I'm just curious what it is. I think I should know what that is so that maybe it's something I could recommend. But the thing is, ladies, when you get really good at understanding what your thoughts are, why you're having them, and how to get a hold of them. See, I do everything organically. I do things without medication, without apps, but apps are great. I'm not putting them down. I'm not putting medication down either. Because some of you have posted that I'm against medication. I'm not against medication. If you need it, use it because you need to function. All right? You need to function. What I'm always saying is that do not rely on it because you have to remember I'm all about overcoming. And the best way to overcome, okay, first of all, is to think with a more logical mind, all right? And to get there is to feel the anxiety head on. If your feelings are being maxed being maxed, I'll use that word, by medication, you may not be feeling everything that the anxiety is making you feel. So that's why when you come off medication, you're like, oh, it's back. I need to up my medication. It's not that it's back. It's just that you're feeling things you weren't feeling fully on. Now, the apps, like I said, I don't know anything about them, so I'm not going to sit here and give an opinion. The only thing is the apps are for accountability as far as I'm concerned, because they can't make you do anything else. They're not going to help you. Well, you know what? I'm going to refrain from saying anything, but I'm sure they're all about accountability. Okay. And when you have a great awareness, okay, about what it is you're experiencing and why, you get really good at supporting yourself, okay, understanding what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and how to diffuse it, how to use self-regulation. I have a whole live about self-regulation, so you can go check that out. To calm yourself down, to get back in control of your emotions. And this is not my first live on thoughts. I have other thoughts other lives on thoughts that you can check out to get back in control of your thoughts. And the quickest way is just to understanding why you're having those thoughts and to have great awareness, to become present, and to reprogram. Reprogram with the truth. Reprogram. The other thing, the one thing I may have left out is I used affirmations. And if you've noticed in the group, I've been every week I've been adding affirmations, posts about affirmations. Affirmations work really well in reprogramming. I like them because they're like little truths, little statements of truth that you tell yourself. And it's not like you don't, when you use these affirmations, I'm going to just say this and then I'm kind of done. But when you use affirmations, all right, sometimes you don't like, all right, let's say you're always telling yourself you're weak, okay? So if you start saying I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, okay, actually, you know what? I'm going to use my own analogy of my life. When I had chronic insomnia, okay, I would tell myself I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep. And I told myself that over and over and over and over again. But ladies, do you think I just started sleeping well because I kept saying I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep? No, it's a little bit more than that. But the concept is right. But it's a little bit more than that. And, when I work with clients, I get you to understand what else you need to do. But when you have these affirmations, okay, you do need to repeat them, okay? But you get the imagination involved, use visualization. Visualization is something with thoughts too comes visualization, because when you're thinking, you have pictures in your mind, right? And maybe I should have said this before. So if you were with me before and you signed off, hopefully you're watching the replay. But when you're thinking, when you have thoughts, sometimes we picture in our minds what we're thinking, right? We see it. We picture it. We get a clear view of it, which kind of can make it scarier at times, right? Because when our thoughts are intrusive, right? When we have those intrusive thoughts, those unwanted thoughts, those catastrophic thoughts, we're not just thinking, we're seeing it, we're picturing it in our mind, telling ourselves a story. So when I was going without sleep, telling myself, I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep, it was more than just saying it. I had to visualize it. And remember, you're thinking, you feel it in your body, right? So I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep, I can sleep. It's more than just saying the affirmation. Okay, you have to attach a feeling to it. So I got good at going, I can sleep. What does sleep feel like? What does it feel like to feel sleepy? When I put it all together, that, ladies, that is when I got results. Yeah. So this works. Rewatch this particular live over and over because it's so important, okay? Your thinking is so important. It means so much. It has everything to do with why you're anxious, because a lot of you will say, I don't understand why I'm anxious. It just happened out of the blue, out of nowhere. Now you know why you're anxious. Now you know why you're anxious. It all started with you observing something with your eyes, hearing something, smelling something, tasting, touching, something with your senses, okay? You manifested. You gave meaning to whatever it was you observed or smelled or tasted, touched, smelled. Okay, you get it. And you felt it in your body. And then you put more of a story to it. And there you go. Now, I understand you want to blame your husband and your kids. You want to blame your boss at work. We always want to blame things outside of us for how we feel, for this anxiety that we have. It's not your husband. And some of you might be disappointed because you want it to be your husband, but it's not your husband. It's not your kids. It's not your boss who's driving you crazy. It's an inside job. It's that meaning that you gave to the thing that you saw, to what you heard, to that boss yelling at you, or telling, or to getting laid off, or to your husband yelling at you and not picking up after himself, and you left the toilet seat up again, or whatever it is that sets you off. It's a pain, but you have to ask yourself, why am I so bothered by this? It is how you are reacting to that stress. The biggest gift you can give yourself is reacting differently to the stress in your life. Start with the thinking. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on with me today. I am so happy that you did. And if you are on YouTube and you like this and you learned a lot from me today, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you watch these over and over, this training and every training I do, because everything I do will help you to have awareness and to get great insight into how to overcome anxiety. And for whatever reason, sometimes all this information is overwhelming. And for whatever reason, you need more support, message me and let's talk about how we can work together to get you to that experience that you really want to have. I will help you and support you to put everything you're learning in these videos, in these trainings. Everything you're learning will work together so that we can get to where you want to go. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be well. Were there any questions? I don't see any questions. Oh, yeah. There is a question. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry there was a question. Okay. What if you just wake up and feel anxious, but not sure what you're anxious about? Okay. That is a loaded question. So there is a lot that I can say on that. I'm trying to think other video where I actually explained that. A lot of people wake up feeling anxious. All right. First of all, this is about thoughts. Okay. The feeling, go through this live again. I want you to watch the replay again and understand, Patrice, how your thoughts affect what you experience. Okay. Now, as far as what you're feeling in your body, because this doesn't seem to be about thoughts, you're talking about you feel anxious. So you're talking more about the body too. They both work together. Absolutely. Your thoughts have some of a play with it, but you got to understand our cells have memory. So as we have this experience, okay, as we have the thoughts, we feel it in our bodies and we do it in a cycle, continuous over and over. We keep feeling the same symptoms in our body. We have that memory, or our cells, and we'll start, we become hypervigilant, if that makes sense, hypervigilant to those feelings. And sometimes it feels like those feelings become our norm. And we start expecting to wake up with those feelings. When I woke up, if I slept well, I would wake up in the morning and I would literally look for those anxious feelings. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense to anybody? Do you wake up and like you feel like, am I anxious? Is it there? And you go, oh yeah, it's there. Okay. It's like you look for it. You expect it. It's starting to become your norm. What you expect, you're going to get. What you look for, what you focus on is what you're going to get. Jennifer, literally, I wake up with negative thoughts swarming in my head. Yeah, well, you know what? When you fall asleep at night, what you hold in your mind, okay? The subconscious mind, you have to understand, does not sleep. We sleep with our conscious mind, but our subconscious mind never falls asleep. So, I mean, talking about thoughts, when do you notice your thoughts the most? As you're falling asleep, right? Right? Like we can distract ourselves all day long. Distract. Then we go to lay down and go to sleep. But what happens? We're not distracting ourselves anymore. We're not busy anymore. We're not focused on, wait, what are we doing now? No, we're going to sleep. That's what we want to do. But this is where the thoughts go, oh no. Oh no. You pushed me away all day long. I've been trying to tell you something, and all day long you're pushing me away, distracting. Now I'm gonna come at you. So that's why sometimes the thoughts are like, that's why I think if you don't have it already, I have a whole manual that I made about sleeping. And one of the things that I talk about is, having a routine, what you do before you go to bed and what you do when you wake up, having routines. And one of the things I talk about, and if I don't talk about it I do so much that I can't remember where I did it. But if I don't talk about it in the resource that I provide in the group, it's definitely in one of my lives about sleep. That what you do before your bed before you go to bed matters, okay? And to push away thoughts is not something you want to do, all right? It's not that we want to give it too much attention. We don't want to focus on the thought too much, okay? But we don't want to push it away either. We want to acknowledge it gently, and have awareness about it. What is this thought in my head? Why am I having this thought? It goes back to what I was saying before, okay? What is this thought? Why am I having it? Is this thought even true? Where's the evidence it's even going to happen? I want to challenge the thought maybe, and listen, ladies, not for anything. If your thoughts are scaring you, they're just thoughts. And that's part of the affirmations that I put in the group. Tell yourself it's just a thought. They're not real. Before I told you that most of our thoughts are negative. And a lot of those negative thoughts, they don't even happen. They're not real. So they're just thoughts, and thoughts are just thoughts. They're not going to hurt you, and you are in control. And if you're falling asleep with these thoughts going through your mind, most likely you're going to wake up the same kind of thoughts. If you have an anxious, negative mind, it's kind of like a bad habit. You want to form a mind that's more positive. So, Jennifer, go through that cycle that I said before about having awareness. I'm having a negative thought. They're just thoughts swarming through my mind, and they're negative, okay? So how do I get rid of these negative thoughts? Well, I become very present. And it's everything that I mentioned before. All right. I don't want to keep rehashing because I'm already going on an hour here. I don't want this to be too long. You're going to have to catch the replay. But I gave a whole step-by-step before of how to really get back in control of the thoughts, all right? But awareness is really key. When you can just see, hey, I'm just having a negative thought. That's all it is. And then take those steps to gain back in control of your thoughts. It's a practice, ladies. It's not going to happen right away. Give yourself some grace. Don't think it's going to be perfect and it's going to happen right away. It's a process. Have patience. Let it happen. The more you practice, the more consistent you are, the quicker it will happen. You just have to trust me on that one. And again, you need help, come to me and I'll help you. Jennifer, I hope I shed some light for you, okay? But ladies, I'm going to go because now I'm like officially over an hour and I don't want this to be too long because then no one's going to watch it. When the lives are too long, no one goes all the way to the end. And I don't want to say too many important things at the end. But ladies, when you watch the lives, try to watch it to the end because I do make sure that everything that I say is something that's going to help you. Okay? And sometimes I save the best for last. So just, I'm sorry if I go on and on in some of my lives, but they're also important. I mean, also important. So have a great week, ladies. I hope you have a great understanding of thoughts, what they are, why you have them. And if not, get in touch with me and we can always work together to assess your thoughts and understand why you have the thoughts you do and how we could replace them and get your mind going in the right direction so that you can start experiencing what it is you want to experience. If you want peace, let's get those thoughts going in the direction where you're going to start getting peace in your life. Ladies, have a great rest of your week. Be well, take care, and I'll see you in the group. Bye for now.